An angel is standing in front of a man. The angel's body looks like beryl, a translucent, shimmering mineral. His face flashes like lightning. His eyes are torches of fire. His arms and legs gleam like burnished bronze. And when he speaks, his voice sounds like the roar of a multitude. The man on the ground is Daniel. He's been fasting and praying for 21 days, 3 full weeks. And when the angel finally arrives, the first thing he says isn't a blessing. It isn't a prophecy. It's an apology. Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. Since the first day, God heard Daniel's prayer on day 1. The angel was dispatched on day 1, but the angel is arriving on day 21. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia. An angel, a being powerful enough to make a prophet collapse at the sight of him, was physically blocked for 3 weeks by a spiritual entity called the Prince of Persia. Not a human prince, a territorial spirit, an invisible power so strong that the angel couldn't get through alone. It took Michael, an archangel, intervening directly to break the blockade. For 21 days, while Daniel was on his knees thinking God wasn't answering, a war was raging in a dimension he couldn't see. The prayer had been heard. The answer had been sent. But between the prayer and the answer was a battlefield. Now, if you've ever prayed and heard nothing, if you've ever wondered whether your words were hitting the ceiling and bouncing back, Daniel chapter 10 says something you need to hear. The silence wasn't absence. It was war. And the war was over you. That scene in Daniel isn't an anomaly. It's a window. A brief, terrifying crack in the wall between what we can see and what we can't, revealing a conflict that the Bible says has been raging since before the earth existed, and won't end until the last page of Revelation. The war between angels and demons isn't a metaphor. It isn't poetry. It isn't a way of describing the struggle between good impulses and bad impulses inside your head. According to the Bible, it is a literal, structured, ongoing conflict between organized spiritual forces, some aligned with God, some in open rebellion against Him. And the battlefield is this world, your if, right now. And the Bible gives us far more detail about both sides of this war than most people have ever been taught. Let's start at the beginning, before the garden, before the earth, before anything human existed at all. The Bible describes a moment, or more accurately, a reality, in which God was surrounded by angelic beings, beings He created before He created the physical universe. Job 38:4-7 tells us that when God laid the foundations of the earth, the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. The angels were already there, watching creation unfold, celebrating, but they weren't all the same. The Bible describes distinct categories of angelic beings, and the descriptions are nothing like the chubby babies with wings you've seen on greeting cards. Isaiah chapter 6. The prophet is given a vision of God's throne room, and surrounding the throne are beings called seraphim. Each one has 6 wings. 2 cover their face, because even angelic beings can't look directly at the full glory of God. 2 cover their feet, and 2 are used for flying, and they're calling out to each other, back and forth, an unending declaration. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of His glory. The sound of their voices shakes the doorposts of the temple. The room fills with smoke. Isaiah, a prophet, a man who speaks with God, falls apart. Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips. That's what proximity to God's throne does to a prophet. And the seraphim live there. Then there are the cherubim. These are the beings described in Ezekiel chapters 1 and 10, and the description is genuinely disturbing the first time you read it. Each one has 4 faces: the face of a man, the face of a lion, the face of an ox, and the face of an eagle. They have 4 wings. Under their wings are human hands. They move without turning. Whichever direction they go straight there, propelled by the Spirit. And beside each cherub is a wheel within a wheel, covered in eyes. The rims of the wheels are full of eyes, all around. These aren't the angels in nativity scenes. These are beings of such complexity and power that Ezekiel can barely find human language to describe what he's seeing. When they move, the sound of their wings is like the roar of rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stand still, they lower their wings, and above them, above the platform they support, is the throne of God. This is what biblically accurate angels actually look like. Not gentle, not decorative, terrifying, powerful, and completely devoted to the God they surround. And then there are the ones who weren't. The Bible describes a being of extraordinary beauty and rank, the highest-ranking angel in creation. Ezekiel 28 says he was the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, adorned with every precious stone, anointed as a guardian cherub on the holy mount of God. He walked among the fiery stones. He was blameless from the day he was created, until wickedness was found in him. Isaiah 14 records his declaration. 5 statements of rebellion. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. 5 times. I will. The most beautiful angel in existence looked at everything he'd been given: the beauty, the position, the proximity to God's throne, and decided it wasn't enough. He wanted the throne itself, and he didn't fall alone. Revelation 12 says his tail swept 1/3 of the stars of heaven and flung them to the earth. 1/3 of the angels chose to follow him. 1/3 of heaven's army defected. War broke out. Revelation 12:7. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. This is the origin of the war, not a human conflict, a cosmic one, a rebellion inside the throne room of God that resulted in 1/3 of the angelic host being expelled from heaven and cast to earth, where they became the enemy, the accuser, the forces of darkness that the rest of the Bible spends 65 books confronting. And the first battlefield they chose was a garden. Genesis 3. The Nachash, the Shining One, the serpent, the ancient dragon in a different form, approaches Eve. He doesn't attack. He doesn't overpower. He questions. Did God really say, really? Treated 3 words that opened a wound in human history that still hasn't fully healed. Did God really say? The first act of the invisible war on human soil wasn't violence. It was doubt. Planted carefully, precisely, surgically, by an enemy who understood that the fastest way to defeat a human being is to make them distrust the God who made them. Adam and Eve fell. Humanity was separated from God, and the war that started in heaven moved permanently to earth. But God didn't leave the battlefield uncontested. Throughout the Old Testament, angels appear at the most critical moments of Israel's story, not as decoration, but as soldiers, messengers, and warriors in the ongoing conflict. An angel with a flaming sword guards the entrance to Eden after the fall. An angel stops Abraham's hand on Mount Moriah. An angel wrestles with Jacob through the night at the Jabbok River, and that encounter leaves Jacob permanently changed. He walks with a limp for the rest of his life. You don't walk away from an encounter with the invisible world unchanged. When Joshua is preparing to invade Canaan, he looks up and sees a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword. Joshua asks, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" And the being says, "Neither. I am the commander of the army of the Lord, not on your side, not on their side, on God's side." The invisible army has its own chain of command, its own agenda, its own war to fight. And then there's the moment in 2 Kings chapter 6 that pulls the curtain back wider than almost any other passage in Scripture. The king of Aram has sent his army to capture the prophet Elisha. Horses, chariots, soldiers, they've surrounded the city overnight. Elisha's servant wakes up, walks outside, sees the army, and panics. "My master, what shall we do?" And Elisha says something that should be framed on every wall. "Don't be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." The servant looks around. It's him and Elisha, two people, against an army. Then Elisha prays, "Lord, open his eyes so he may see." And the Lord opens the servant's eyes, and he looks up at the hills surrounding the city, and the hills are full of horses and chariots of fire. An angelic army, already deployed, already in position, already surrounding the enemy that was surrounding them. They were always there. The servant just couldn't see them. And if that passage doesn't make you rethink every moment of your life where you felt outnumbered, outmatched, surrounded by problems with no visible help, then you missed the point. The invisible army was there before the enemy arrived. The protection was in place before the threat materialized. The servant's problem wasn't the army of Aram. It was that his eyes were only tuned to one frequency, and the war was happening on another. But the enemy's side is organized too, and the Bible describes their structure with uncomfortable specificity. Paul lays it out in Ephesians 6:12. "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Rulers, authorities, powers, spiritual forces, 4 ranks. At a military hierarchy of darkness operating in what Paul calls the heavenly realms, a spiritual dimension that overlaps with and influences the physical world. This is not poetry. Paul is describing an organized enemy with chain of command, territorial assignments, and strategic objectives. Daniel 10 confirms it. The Prince of Persia, the Prince of Greece. Territorial spirits assigned to, or ruling over, specific nations. The invisible war isn't random chaos. It's structured conflict, with specific spirits opposing specific divine purposes in specific regions of the earth. And in the Gospels, when Jesus arrives, both sides of the war respond immediately. Angels announce his birth to shepherds. Angels attend him after his temptation in the wilderness. An angel strengthens him in Gethsemane. Angels are present at his empty tomb. But the demons respond too, and they respond with terror. Every time Jesus encounters a demon-possessed person, the demons cry out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." They know him instantly, without introduction. The invisible world recognized who he was before the visible world figured it out. And here's the critical detail. Jesus didn't just confront the enemy, he transferred his authority to his followers. Luke 10:19. "I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you." Authority over all the power of the enemy, given to humans, not to angels, to people. Ordinary, flawed, frightened people who followed him. The same kind of authority that the divine council abused, and that the Watchers corrupted, handed to fishermen and tax collectors and former demoniacs. Because the invisible war was never supposed to be fought only by invisible beings. It was supposed to be fought by humans who know which side they belong to. And the decisive battle? It didn't look like a battle at all. Colossians 2:15. Having disarmed the powers and authorities, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. The cross. The moment every demon in the hierarchy thought they had won. The Son of God hanging, dying, bleeding out on Roman wood, was the moment Jesus stripped them of their weapons. Disarmed. The Greek word means to completely divest of power, to publicly strip naked. The victory parade happened at the execution site. The triumph was disguised as a defeat. The war isn't over when the enemy is disarmed, but not yet destroyed. Paul's language throughout his letters makes it clear. The spiritual forces are still active, still scheming, still opposing. Ephesians 6 tells believers to put on the full armor of God: truth, righteousness, the gospel, faith, salvation, the Spirit's sword, because the attacks are ongoing. You don't put on armor if the war is finished, but the outcome is decided. The book of Revelation makes that clear with almost anticlimactic brevity. The beast is captured. The false prophet is captured. Both are thrown into the lake of fire. Satan is bound, then released briefly, then defeated permanently. Fire falls from heaven. It's over. The final battle of the invisible war takes 2 verses. Not because it wasn't important, but because the result was never in doubt. The cross settled it. Revelation just executes the sentence. And now, come back to Daniel. 21 days of silence. 21 days of wondering if anyone was listening. 21 days of praying into what felt like a void. And behind that silence, behind the curtain that separates what you can see from what you can't, an angel was fighting to reach him. A territorial spirit was blocking the way. And an archangel was dispatched to break through. The prayer was heard on day 1. The answer was sent on day 1. The war was the reason for the delay. Not God's indifference, not Daniel's unworthiness. War. And if you're in your own day 14 right now, if you've been praying and nothing is moving, and the silence feels like rejection, Daniel 10 says something is happening that you can't see. The answer might already be in transit. And the delay might not be denial. It might be a battle. The war you can't see is more real than the one you can. The angels on the hills are already in position. The chariots of fire are already surrounding you. And the side you're on, the side that disarmed the enemy at the cross and will end the war at the throne, has already won. You're not waiting for the outcome. You're living in the space between the victory and the parade. And that space, that's called faith. If this changed how you see the spiritual world, the story of Archangel Michael goes even deeper. His war with Satan in the book of Jude, his role in Daniel, and why he's the one angel the Bible calls by rank. That full story is right here. And if you're not subscribed yet, we go this deep every single week. Angela.